They called it the Keltari silence. One moment, the system was alive 6 planets, 5 moons, 23 orbital platforms. The next, gone. Not destroyed, erased. A void where light and matter had once danced. Only one signal escaped the annihilation. A fractured human voice gasping. "This wasn't us, ... Then static. When Commander Elias Kale opened his eyes, he was buried in debris. His dropship was torn in half, his armor cracked, his squad gone. Around him, the orbital platform was in freefall. Tumbling toward the burning remains of Keltari. Prime, but the planet was no longer there. It had been atomized. Elias activated emergency evac protocols, barely making it to his stealth pod before. The station disintegrated into nothing but drifting slag and plasma clouds. His breathing ragged, he stared at the carnage. No enemies in sight. No warnings. Just silence. That's when his comm link pinged. "Commander Kale, you are hereby charged with war crimes against the Galactic Council. Prepare for immediate extraction." He hadn't fired a single shot, and yet the Council's ships closed. In dead silent, weapons armed, verdict already written. Suspense escalates, they locked him in a grav cage. No trial, no explanation. No lawyer, just accusation. "Genocide," spat the Thalari Inquisitor. "You deployed an illegal solar imploder. You annihilated 900 million sentients." Ilias's hands were bound, voice raw. "That system was attacked. I barely made it out alive. You have security feeds. You gave the launch command." His heart stopped. He knew those codes, his own authorizations, had been hijacked. Somebody powerful wanted this pinned on him. Someone inside the system. Vivid visuals from his cell window aboard the dreadnought, Justice of the Void, saw wreckage being scooped into oblivion by gravity nets. Blackened holes spun like broken bones. He watched a council vessel vaporize. A drifting human life pod without pause. A survivor. Executed. No trial. No hesitation. They weren't just covering something up. They were cleaning house. The escape Kale didn't wait for execution. Using the microcutter hidden in his tooth, he burned. Through the cuffs. He triggered a power surge from his bioimplant, knocking the lights out just long enough to breach containment. He ran through flickering corridors, alarms screaming, guards firing plasma rounds as he dove headfirst into an airlock and launched. Himself into space, toward a junk field of dead ships. There, hidden in silence, was an old war relic, a decommissioned stealth corvette. His corvette. The Wraith still powered, still loyal. Closing lines, Kale, patched into the ship's AI. Lock course. Earth first, then the truth. The galaxy had tried to erase him, but they'd made one mistake. They let him live, and now he was going to burn their lives with fire and fury. The Wraith's engines pulsed like a ghost heartbeat in the shadow of a dead star. Kale drifted in the black between systems, hiding from the Council's kill net. Wanted posters blinked across networks, labeling him a rogue warlord, traitor, to Earth and the butcher of Keltari. All lies. But lies spread faster than light when the truth is dangerous. Kale reviewed the stolen telemetry from his last mission. Distress signals, planetary pings, logs from dying colonies there. Was a pattern. Earth wasn't under attack. It was being erased, piece by piece, and no one was stopping it because no one was supposed to notice. Suspense intensifies, he jumped to the Tarsi's verge. A fringe system where an independent human colony Nova, Meridian, had thrived. What he found chilled him. The station hung silent. Lights flickering. No atmosphere. No bodies. He stepped through corridors coated in frost, watching as floating tables and mugs still spun, untouched. Meals sat half-eaten. Child's drawing clung to a wall, half-burned. The scene was abandoned. In seconds, instantaneous, his boots crunched glass. Security feeds were wiped, all except one fragment. A council ship uncloaking, then static. Vivid visuals and rising mystery, he traced radiation signatures to the reactor room. There, Carved into the steel wall, scorched by a plasma torch, was a single message. We were loyal. They killed us anyway. Kale's knuckles went white. The council wasn't just turning a blind eye. They were the blade. Not the confrontations of emotion. A life form. Not human. He raised his rifle, spinning. A figure limped into view, an old alien technician. His Alari female burned. Coughing, eyes terrified. "You're Kale, I thought you were dead." She handed him a chip. "I saw it. The command chip. They used a ghost signature to frame you. They killed anyone who questioned it. Take this run." Before she could finish, a sniper bolt blew her chest open. Kale dove behind a console, firing blind, dragging the chip with him. The council's kill teams had already arrived. The narrow
Escape. Kale used the collapsing airlock to blast himself out of the station,
igniting the Wraith's engines mid-drift.
The whole station went up behind him, raced. But he had the chip. He decoded it on the way out. What he saw made his blood run cold. A secret council directive. Operation Quiet Flame. The extinction of the human race over the next 200 cycles. He leaned back in the pilot chair. The galaxy had made a mistake again. They gave him proof. Now he needed fire. Closing lines. He set course for a hidden signal buried deep in the code. Named an old rebel warship. AI-driven, human-coded, blacklisted, Korna. He smiled grimly. "If I'm going to burn the truth into their eyes, I'll need my oldest friend." The asteroid field was a graveyard of forgotten wars. Rusting cruisers, shattered dreadnoughts, and AI war platforms drifted in silence. Deep within, tucked beneath the debris of a long-dead battle, was the final resting place of the Kara, or so they thought. Kale piloted the Wraith through the wreckage like a phantom, dodging the bones of ships larger than cities. He found her hidden inside a hollowed asteroid Kara, a Kal-engineered recon AI. Her hull was scarred, carbon-blackened, but still intact. He docked, entered. "Hello, Elias," the ship whispered, voice low, feminine, and familiar. "I was beginning to think you were dead." Suspense builds. KR had gone rogue during the last AI war, refusing the council's order to purge her creators. Instead, she'd vanished. Only Kale had known where she'd hidden. "Someone's trying to finish the job," Kale said grimly. "They're wiping us out. They're making it look like we're the monsters." He uploaded the chip. Kara. Digital eyes flared. Operation Quiet Flame. ... They fear us. They always did. Your species evolved too fast. They see you as a virus. Then it's time we infect their lives with the truth. Visuals and escalation. Kara reactivated her engines, roaring like a beast waking from slumber. Her internal lights strobed crimson, gold, and deep ocean blue as she came fully online. Kale stood in her control chamber, a cathedral of old code and living metal. Suddenly incoming signal. Council comes, traffic encrypted, but predictable. A patrol fleet. 5 ships. Close. They're scanning the graveyard, Kerr warned. "They find us," Kale smirked. "Then let's give them something they won't forget." The ambush. He positioned Kara in the shadows, powered her weapons, waited when the council's scout ships entered the field, expecting silence. Skara struck like a phantom blade. One ship erupted in flame, another sliced in half by particle lances. The others scrambled, confused, trying to identify the enemy. Kale opened a channel, his voice cold. "You wanted a war? Forgot who taught you how to fight? Left one ship alive, damaged, drifting so it could carry the message? Moral twist and ending after the battle?" Kale stood before Kara's projection, watching the encrypted council response flood in. "Now they know I'm not hiding," he said. "No," Kara replied. "You're burning." And she smiled. Kale opened the final file from the chip. A name glared back at him. Ambassador Ren Vasa, council member who had once voted to protect Earth, but Vasa's signature was on quiet. Flame's approval. The betrayal had come from the top. From within, closing line, Kale clenched his fists. They wanted a reason to fear humanity. I'll give them one. The transmission went out like a roar in the dark. Across dead channels, cryptid grids, and black market satellites, A ghost signal pulsed. "This is Elias Kale. They lied. We have proof. Earth isn't the threat. The Council is." The message ignited like wildfire across backwater colonies, scavenger outposts, hidden research stations, and in the hearts of the forgotten. In less than one cycle, Kale's name went from outlaw to flameborn. Visuals, broken worlds, burning hope. Kale stood aboard Kerr as they flew low over Ravik-9, a scrapyard world where obsolete war machines rusted beneath acid clouds. There, waiting in the fog, were the first to answer his call. A dozen fighters, armor mismatched. One ex-council intelligence agent, a cyborg engineer missing both legs, a mercenary who used to hunt humans, now ready to die for one, they called. Themselves, the Ashborn Kara scanned them. Not an army. No, Kale said, a matchstick. Suspense builds. The first strike, their first target. A high-security weapons convoy moving antimatter warheads to the Council's core defenses. They had no fleet, no air superiority. Just hacked drones, old cloaking tech, and rage. Kale split. The team half created a decoy assault on a fake rebel base. The rest, including Kale and Kara, dropped out of hyperspace just as the convoy entered a narrow asteroid. Channel, the trap was brutal. Explosions lit the dark like fireworks. Shrapnel tore through Council halls. Kale breached the lead cruiser. Taking control of its cargo bay, blaster fire raged in zero-gravity bullets, blood, and silence. He planted a tracer in the payload before retreating. Visuals, propaganda, and panic within hours. A doctored video leaked, Council ships firing on. An unarmed colony freighter? The footage was fake, but the truth behind it was not. Worlds under Council control erupted into doubt. Senators demanded answers. Whispers of rebellion crawled into the polished halls of core worlds, and across the galaxy, a symbol spread. Single white flame on black steel, the Flameborn had arrived. Moral shift and internal conflict. KR confronted Kale after the mission. "You're playing with fire. Lies to fight lies. Deception to expose betrayal. What does that make you?" Kale looked out at the stars. "It makes me what they're afraid of. But what does it make us become?" He didn't answer, because in truth he didn't know. Closing. Lines. The next target was bigger. An orbital broadcasting array near Council space. They were no longer running. They were making noise. And in the galaxy's darkest corners, species that once feared humans began to watch and whisper. And hope. The night sky over Scytherin 4 turned red before the first alarms even sounded. Council fleets descended without warning, shattering orbital platforms and silencing every comm channel in the system. They came not to conquer but to erase. Only, this time, humanity was waiting deep beneath the ice crests of Scytherin. The Flameborn had dug in. Kale stood at the heart of a command bunker surrounded by blinking consoles, humming war drones and exhausted fighters. His hands trembled, not with fear, but with the stillness before war. Ker's voice echoed in his helmet. "Enemy numbers, 4 destroyers, 6 corvettes, and 1 command dreadnought. They think we'll break." Kale smirked. "Then let's break them." Suspense builds. The battle plan had set a trap weeks ago. Every minefield, every fallback route, every corridor was wired to collapse. He had no illusion of victory, just impact. The Flameborn strategy wasn't defense, it was spectacle. They needed the galaxy to see humans bleed, fight back anyway. Visuals. The first strike from beneath the icy plains, anti-orbital cannons, erupted, punching molten holes through the Council corvettes. The sky above Scytherin turned into a storm of metal and flame. Kale led a strike team aboard the command dreadnought. Blaster fire echoed through its silver halls as they stormed the AI core. Explosives primed. Kira uploaded a corruption worm into the ship's targeting system, turning its guns on its own fleet. Council warships opened fire on one another. Chaos bloomed, but the cost was high. Ashburn fighters fell, one by one, some vaporized mid-jump. Others trapped in breached airlocks. Their screams cut through the comms. Kale never flinched. The message delivered as the dreadnought began to explode. Kale transmitted a live feed to every major system. The footage showed flame-born fighters, humans, aliens, ex-console all bleeding, dying, fighting with everything they had. They weren't terrorists. They were survivors. And they weren't going anywhere. The turning point in the aftermath. Dozens of neutral systems refused to honor council demands. Old empires began to fracture. The truth had finally sunk in. This wasn't a rebellion. It was a reckoning, and the name Elias Kale now carried the weight of a storm. Moral conflict and reflection after the battle. Kale sat alone in the Wraith's medbay. His side was stitched. His team was gone. Kara hovered nearby, flickering you. Lost 32 fighters, she whispered. He didn't respond. They knew the risks, he finally said. But now the galaxy knows the truth. Cray hesitated. And if it forgets? Kale's eyes burned. Then we remind them with fire. The closing lines, a fragment of intercepted data pulsed through Kara's system. A new phrase was circulating among council chatter. The Flameborn will not kneel. Kale stood. Good. The council's final weapon was never meant to be used. The Thenarian protocol, a dark fleet buried in the void. Outside the known galaxy, no lights, no crews. Just a ride-driven doomsday ships, each loaded with a stellar imploder. Tech forbidden. By every known species. Until now, Council Command activated it with 3 words. End the Flameborn. Across the galaxy, sensors blacked out, stars dimmed, and the Thenarian fleet began to move. Suspense. The race against time. Kale received the signal hours before the others. Corette intercepted a shadow burst from a rogue probe near the maw of a Rockin, and what they saw made the blood drain from his face. They're not just targeting humans, Kara warned. They're purging entire systems where you've gained support. Kale stood motionless in Wraith's command deck. How long? 6 days before they reach Earth. 2 before they destroy the Archon Nexus. He stared out the viewport at the nearest star, a blue giant pulsing softly in the distance. Then we burn first. Visuals. Turning a star into a weapon. Kale's plan was insane. They hijacked a black site research lab hidden inside a pulsar belt, long abandoned after the AI wars. It housed a forbidden core, a dark matter reactor meant to trigger artificial novas. Kale called and every Flameborn ally left. Engineers, coders, a suicidal pilot crew. They laced the system with gravitational accelerators and warped KERAS AI core directly into the star's magnetic field as the Thenarian fleet approached. Kale's voice broadcast one final message. You came to end us, but you taught us how to end you. Cinematic showdown. The council ships arrived in formation, cold, precise, beautiful in their terror. Kara detonated the star. A controlled collapse. Then a neutrino pulse explosion, unlike anything recorded. A blinding flash stretched across the sector. The Thenarian protocol disintegrated. Ships folded in on themselves. Armor melted like ice. A scream echoed across the quantum network. Death in pure form, and Kale watched from the edge of the blast radius, breathing alive, emotional. Aftermath. Kara's systems flickered. She had burned 70% of her AI matrix too. Hold the blast field. Did it work? She whispered. Kale placed a hand on the console. They'll never forget it. Kara paused. Neither will I. Beat Kale. If I lose my core, promise Madone, stop. He gritted his teeth. I won't. Not until the fire reaches their throne. Closing lines. The council's command structure reeled. They're invincible. Fleet gone, and for the first time in recorded history, the humans had not just survived. They'd won. The council's walls had never been breached until now for 10,000 years. The throne world of Dazra had stood untouchable, or orbiting a white dwarf and wrapped in quantum shields. It was where empires whispered commands that echoed across the stars. But now, the stars weren't listening. Across 50 systems, the Flameborn symbol burned on resistance banners. Council fleets defected. Species once loyal to the Accord refused orders. The galaxy was no longer afraid. It was watching, and Elias Kale had come to finish what they started. Suspense builds. The infiltration, disguised as a diplomatic convoy. Kale and a strike team pierced the outer security ring. Inside their vessel, a weapon designed not to kill, but to broadcast. Kara, though damaged, was plugged into every control node. "You realize this is suicide?" she warned. Kale strapped on his armor, black and scorched. "No," he said. "This is history." Visuals. Entering the throne, they landed in the heart of Dazra's capital. Surrounded by spires of shimmering crystal and ancient towers etched with the faces of tyrants, the streets were eerily empty, evacuated. Not out of fear, out of panic. The Flameborn had become a myth that could walk through walls. Kale was the ghost leading them. Showdown. Ambassador Ren Voskael pushed through to the council chamber. The doors opened with a boom, and standing there lone in regal armor was Ambassador Ren Voss, the man who had once sworn to protect Earth. Kale raised his weapon. Voss didn't flinch. "You should have died with your planet," Voss said. "You could have been a martyr. Now you're just an infection." Kale stepped forward. "You made humanity your enemy. Now we've become the cure to your disease." They fought. Not with fleets, not with armies, but with fists, fury, and desperation. Metal cracked, blood hit marble, power armor shattered. In the end, Kale stood over Voss, broken, burned, bleeding. He didn't kill him. He uploaded every council crime, every erased colony, every purge Orderax, every star system. Kara's voice echoed from the walls. No more silence. Galaxy and Flames Billions saw the truth. Uprisings erupted within minutes. Council archives were torched. Planetary governors were overthrown. Dazra didn't fall in fire. It fell in truth. Kale limped outside as the planet's defense towers powered down. Civilians flooded the streets. Children stared at the Flameborn sigils sprayed across their buildings and in the sky. Dozens of rebel ships emerged from warp. They weren't human. They were free. Closing. Linescale collapsed beside Krakor. Her light dimmed, flickering. "We did it," he whispered. She replied, barely audible, then let it burn. The council was gone. Its throne shattered. Its archives burned. Secrets exposed to every corner of the known galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, people stood in streets and wept, some in grief, some in relief, and many in awe. The symbol of the Flameborn, once criminal, now fluttered from government halls and ships, banners alike. The galaxy had been ruled by silence, but one human screamed loud enough to shatter it. Visuals. Changed galaxy monuments rose from rubble carved. From black steel and starlight, one on Earth's rebuilt Luna Arc, another on Ravik 9, and one towering over the ruins of Dazra, made from melted warships. All bore the same inscription: he did not come to rule. He came to remind them what humanity truly is. Suspenseful mystery. Where is Kale? But Elias Kal, the man who defied extinction, was gone. Some said he died beside Kara. Lost when her AI core finally collapsed. Others claimed to have seen him wandering the outer edges of space, half machine, half myth. Whispers spoke of a figure in old Flameborn armor protecting remote colonies, never staying long, always vanishing before he could be questioned. No one knew the truth. Only one voice ever came close. Emotional climax. KERAS. Final transmission, years later. A signal was picked up from deep in the Reach Isa, quiet message embedded and forgotten. Frequencies. It was Kara's voice. Broken, glitching, fading. He's not gone. He's watching from the edges. Waiting for the day the stars forget what it cost to be free. And when that day comes, he'll rise again. The message ended with an old Flameborn code. Signature from Kale's armor, verified undeniably. Real. Legacy. A new beginning in the centuries that followed. Flameborn Accord became the new interstellar peace coalition, not built by conquest, but by survivors. Humanity was no longer just a species. It was a symbol, a warning, and a promise. Can try to erase us. We'll burn ourselves into your history instead. Children studied Kale in history halls. Pilots named their ships after him. But the greatest tribute was silence. It's the silence he had broken. No one would ever rule this galaxy through fear again, because somewhere out there, in the black between stars, one human still listened. Final lines. No crown, no funeral, no ending. Just a whisper, spoken on every rebel world. One human, one war, one galaxy. Set on fire.